Zohran Mamdani's family compound in Uganda just got fully exposed, and the photos are worse than anything his critics ever invented. We're talking about a 5-bedroom villa on a private hill above Lake Victoria with a swimming pool, a full-time housekeeper, gardeners, and its own security detail. And buried inside this story is one detail, one piece of paperwork that takes this from embarrassing to absolutely devastating, because it turns the man who ran against landlords into something he never wanted you to see. So just imagine this with me. Come along.
Today, we are looking at the secret family compound in East Africa. We are breaking down the masked guards, the cell phone jammers at his private wedding, and the financial disclosure that proves the mayor's entire populist brand is built on a lie. To understand the scale of this hypocrisy, we have to look at the myth that was built. Zohran Mamdani was born in Kampala, Uganda in 1991. By the time he was a boy, his family had moved, first to Cape Town, South Africa, and then to New York City. He grew up in the orbit of Manhattan's cultural elite. He attended the Bronx High School of Science, and then went on to Bowdoin College, a private liberal arts school in Maine that costs more per year than most Ugandan families see in a lifetime. His father is a rising academic who holds an endowed chair at Columbia University. His mother is Mira Nair. She isn't just a filmmaker, she is the actor behind Oscar-nominated films like Salaam Bombay and Monsoon Wedding. Her name opens doors on 3 continents. Somewhere in his 20s, this child of immense global privilege discovered his political identity: democratic socialist. He moved to Astoria, Queens, took an apartment, and started building a brand as the voice of the struggling renter. He became the man who supposedly fights the landlord class. That brand carried him to the state assembly, and then, in November of 2025, all the way to City Hall. He is now the mayor of the largest city in America, elected on a promise to freeze the rent, tax the rich, and make housing a human right instead of a profit machine. But 8,000 miles away, on a hill outside Kampala, his family's wealth tells a different story. And one specific arrangement they have been running for years is the part nobody at City Hall wants to talk about. Let us start with the hill itself. Buziga Hill is not a neighborhood you stumble into. It is one of the wealthiest areas around Kampala. It is a place where diplomats, executives, and Uganda's moneyed class build their luxury homes above the lake. According to the reporting that finally dragged this property into the daylight, the Mamdani family estate is a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom villa with a sweeping view of Lake Victoria. It comes with a swimming pool, a veteran housekeeper who keeps the place running year-round, and gardeners who tend the grounds. This is not a family hut in an ancestral village, and nobody involved has ever pretended otherwise because they never expected the American press to look. But the New York Post reporters did look, and what they found reads like a listing for a 5-star luxury resort. But hold on to one question as we walk through this property. A villa like this, staffed year-round on one of Kampala's richest hills, does not just sit empty for 11 months of the year. Somebody uses it. The question of who uses it and on what terms is where this story takes a dark turn, because last summer, something happened on that hill. For 3 days in July, the man of the people threw the kind of party that most New Yorkers will never be allowed within a mile of. Fresh off his primary win, Mamdani announced he was heading to Uganda to celebrate his marriage. He had eloped months earlier with his wife in a quiet civil ceremony in New York. The Uganda trip was the real celebration, and the reporting from the ground described something closer to a state function than a family gathering. 3 days of festivities at the Buziga Hill compound. Guests streamed up the private road, partying past midnight. Masked military-style armed guards controlled the entire perimeter. And here is the detail that should stop you cold: a cell phone jamming system. Think about what that means. The candidate whose entire brand is built on transparency. The man who films himself riding the subway and talking to street vendors. The mayor who demands transparency from landlords and developers. Celebrated his wedding behind a wall of armed men and a machine specifically designed to make sure no photo and no video ever left the property. Regular New Yorkers are constantly told that if they have nothing to hide, they have nothing to fear. But the mayor's family celebration came with military-grade counter-surveillance. But the guards and the jammers are not the part of this story that should bother you. What his own campaign paperwork revealed back in New York is where the hypocrisy stops being about optics and starts being about money. While the wedding coverage faded, the financial disclosures did not. Mamdani's own filings, the documents he is legally required to sign under penalty of perjury, list something almost nobody in New York noticed. He personally owns 4 acres of the land in Uganda, not the family, him, he himself, the democratic socialist who stands at podiums and tells New Yorkers that property is power, the politician who attacks landowners for holding too much of it. By his own signed paperwork, he is a foreign landowner. Now put that next to how he lives in New York. Mamdani spent his entire campaign as the famous face of the renter class. He rents in Astoria, the way he always has, on an assemblyman's salary that grew into a mayor's salary drawn from taxpayers. His family's declared fortune sits around $3 million, anchored by his mother's film career and his father's endowed professorship. None of that is a crime. Being born lucky is not a scandal. But Mamdani didn't just build a political identity on being lucky. He built it on the claim that he stands outside the ownership class, that he is one of the people the landlords squeeze. The paperwork says otherwise. The paperwork says his family holds a staffed lakefront villa on one of the wealthiest hills in East Africa, and the mayor himself holds 4 acres of Ugandan land. He is not just from money, he is from land too. Which brings us finally to the detail we mentioned at the very beginning, the one buried arrangement that turns all of this from hypocrisy into a business model. The Buzaga Hill Villa is on Airbnb. Go look it up. It has been listed for 8 years. While Zohran Mamdani built his career attacking the private rental market, while he cheered New York City's aggressive crackdown on short-term rentals, while he campaigned on the idea that housing should never be a profit machine, his own family has been renting out their 5-bedroom Ugandan estate to paying guests, complete with a pool, the lake views, the housekeeper, and by some accounts, monkeys wandering the grounds like a scene out of a luxury travel brochure. Read that again. The family of the mayor who fought short-term rentals in his own city runs one abroad. On of a family that markets a luxury villa to tourists, stood in front of New York cameras and told struggling tenants that he understood their fight against people who treat housing as income. For 8 years, that Airbnb listing sat there in public, taking bookings while the American press covered his rise and never once thought to check. This is the reveal, and it explains absolutely everything about the jammers and the guards at the wedding, because the worst thing that could have happened at that celebration was not a security breach. It was a viewer with a search bar, one guest posting one photo, one journalist matching the infinity view of Lake Victoria to the photos on the Airbnb listing, and suddenly, the man of the people becomes the son of a vacation rental landlord in a single news cycle. The secrecy was never about safety, it was about protecting the brand, and the listing itself is worth lingering on, because the family did not hide the luxury from paying customers. The write-ups describe the villa the way any 5-star host would: the lake views from the terrace, the pool, the staff who take care of everything. Guests have been able to book that experience for roughly 8 years. Do the arithmetic on what 8 years of bookings means. A staffed 5-bedroom estate in a premium location does not list for pocket change per night. And every one of those nights is exactly the kind of transaction Mamdani's political movement calls extraction, when a New Yorker does it with a spare room in Brooklyn. New York spent those exact same years tightening the screws on short-term rentals. The city drove tens of thousands of listings off the platforms, with Mamdani's wing of the Democratic Party cheering the crackdown as a massive victory for tenants. Hosts in Queens got fined. Their listings were pulled. Meanwhile, the villa above Lake Victoria kept its calendar open. The rules, it turns out, were for the people who cannot afford a second home, 8,000 miles from the voters. Once you see the brand for what it is, the rest of his agenda reads complete. Lie differently. This is the mayor who froze rent on 1 million apartments. Landlords warned the city that buildings would rot and units would come off the market. He shrugged, because it is not his family's problem. Their rental income does not come from a rent-stabilized walk-up in Queens. It comes from a lakefront villa in a country where New York's housing laws will never reach. This is the mayor who wants the city itself to run grocery stores because he claims private ownership cannot be trusted with necessities. Yet he is delivered to us from a family that trusts private ownership so much, they monetize a second home across 2 continents with nightly rates. The people who pay for all of his policies are not the Mamdani's of the world. They are New Yorkers who cannot leave. They are the shop owners, the landlords with one building, the tenants who were promised that the man at the top lives like they do. He does not live like they do, and he never has. The distance between the Astoria apartment and the Buziga Hill compound is not 8,000 miles. It is the distance between the story New York was sold and the family ledger nobody was supposed to open. A boy born above Lake Victoria grows up between Kampala, Cape Town, and Manhattan. The son of a famous director and a Columbia professor, educated at an elite private college. He rebrands himself as the tenant class champion. He rides that story into New York City Hall and freezes the rent of the biggest city in America. And the whole time, on the hill where he was born, the family villa takes paying guests through the exact kind of platform his politics condemn, guarded by armed men and phone jammers the moment the family comes home. This was never about whether a politician's family can be wealthy. It is about a man who sold New York a version of himself that his own paperwork contradicts. A man who attacks, in public, the very arrangement his family profits from in private. New Yorkers are living inside his experiment. The frozen rents, the city-run stores, the massive tax hikes, while the people who designed it keep a 5-bedroom escape hatch on another continent. When the man telling you to sacrifice owns the exit, you are not partners in a cause. You are the audience for a performance. And on Buziga Hill, when the show ends and the jammers switch off, the Airbnb listing goes right back online.